Hey, Chicago, what do you say? It's the CHGO Cubs POSTGAME Podcast. Cubs lose to the Guardians 9-8 out in Cleveland, and their 4-game winning streak comes to an end. Luke Stuckmeyer and Cody Delmendo with you for about the next hour here on the Cubs Podcast, and we're going to talk about the roller coaster ride we had in Cleveland tonight. We'll talk about some injury updates for this team, and the fact that, Cody, this was an opportunity to get back to 500 for the first time since early June, which then would have maybe put me back into the, all right, I sort of believe. I know there was a lot of people starting to really believe, but this one hurts because you had the 3-0 lead, and then you fight back to tie it up again late after you blow the lead.
You know, you go to Mexico and you come back and ruin Mexico. You ruin the vibes.
Didn't go to Mexico. I didn't even leave the suburbs.
Sorry, I had to start it off with a joke because, you know.
But I did pick up some tequila for you.
Oh,
no, I'm kidding.
I was like, really?
No.
Yeah, it's tough because you had an early lead. And then it turned into what felt like a blowout. Then you make a massive comeback, tie it.
Yeah, and it's 3-0 with Shota on the mound.
Right. And I felt like the Guardians really adjusted to Shota well after the first time through the lineup. And it's not like you just lost to, you know, a bad team. Like, the Guardians are one of the best teams in baseball. They have been all season. I know they were kind of struggling coming into this series, but they're still one of the best teams in baseball. Jose Ramirez, no joke. That Noel guy, I didn't know who the heck he is. The first homer, he clubbed out. The ball was nowhere near the strike zone. The second one, you know, the ball was out on the outside corner in the strike zone. But, you know, whatever. I give him credit on that one. Maybe that's kind of a bad pitch. However you want to decide. Steven Kwan, you know, top of the zone, not like from Shota that wasn't even, you know, it wasn't in the middle of the plate. I feel like he didn't throw any meatballs over the plate. I just think they're really good. And when you have a 3-0 lead against a team like that, you can't give it away. I know a lot of people on Cubs Twitter were talking about the strike call that didn't get, or the ball that should have been a strike against Naylor that didn't go their way. But before that, you know, Shota walked the leadoff hitter. Paredes had the error.
That's it.
You know what I mean?
Those are the two things that killed you in this
game.
game.
Paredes has been fine defensively. He's made some really good defensive plays, but one bad play, all right? It's one bad play, okay? But, yeah, I mean, to make the comeback after they gave up the lead, you know, Dansby with that bases loaded clear triple
that turns into a triple, yeah,
because the ball got away, right? You know, you felt the fight that the team showed, and that, honestly, I'm not telling y'all how to fan, but I have that's what I'm using to go into tomorrow with a little bit of optimism, because they could have just laid down after being down 8-3 against that team on the road. Instead, they make a big comeback. Not only do they get it within one in the 7th inning, the 8th inning, you know, you get a leadoff, or you get a 1-out walk, I believe, from Ian Happ. Then Patrick Wisdom, who everyone always complains when he comes in the game. He smoked a 100-mile-an-hour pitch into the left field corner. You got second and third with 1 out. Seiya, he gave it a ride. But good enough for a sac fly. But then they intentionally walk Bellinger, and Paredes can't. You know, he can't get the big hit with 2 outs. So, you know, whatever. Like, he's had big hits over the last week, so I'm not going to be mad nearly about that either. The fact that they made the comeback, I know no one wants to hear it, but for me personally, that's what I'm taking in tomorrow, because they easily could have just laid down. But I think the biggest thing to take away that hurts the most for me from this game for sure is the fact that you had an early lead and you were unable to hold it, you know?
Yeah, they did.
Especially with one of your best pitchers.
They didn't lay down, and they came back against the best bullpen in baseball. Credit to them. But if you're going to make a run, I don't know what the percentage is of them winning.
9.7%.
9.7 coming into this. So if you're going to change 9% to 100%, you're going to have to start winning almost all of the games that you play that are like this, right?
Well,
like when you play when you have a 3-0 lead with your second best pitcher on the mound, you've got to win the game. And then when things don't work that way and you make the big comeback, somehow you got to find a way to close it down. Do I blame them for losing this game? No, there were a couple little plays. They got beat by probably a better team tonight. But they were close enough that this is the type of game where now going down the stretch, you're going to be like, they got to win all these.
Yeah. I guess what I'm saying is this game doesn't feel like as big of a heartbreaking loss as a lot of them have. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, you want to list all the games that they gave away earlier in the year. This game doesn't feel like that. So take that with what you will, chat, people listening through the podcast. The Cardinals did lose tonight, too, to the Reds. So I think that's good. You know, the Giants and the Braves are starting up. I feel like with that series, the best case scenario for the Cubs is if it's a split and not one team wins the series. You know, and then Pittsburgh and San Diego. I mean, San Diego, they're like 13 games above 500. Cubs are 2 games under 500. So as long as Pittsburgh stays behind the Cubs, whatever, I guess I'm rooting for the Padres there. And Colorado and Arizona. So, you know, Colorado and Arizona, I mean, they've been so hot that they're kind of flirting with the NL West with the Dodgers right now. So who knows how that's going to play out. But for that last wild card spot, the Cubs are still in an okay spot. And the way that they played tonight, especially offensively, the offense showing up the way that it did, it gives me some confidence they can come back tomorrow and hopefully pull out a W. To me, this week, the Cubs have to go no worse than 4-2. I think they're allowed to lose a couple games this week, but you got to at least win these 2 series with Cleveland and the Blue Jays. So I could get a little greedy and hope for a 5-1 week. Maybe sweep the Blue Jays, but realistically, I think you got to win both series. And if you lose the series against the Guardians, then worse, at worst 3-3. But then you're going to really need to hope that you're really going to need some help from some of these other teams I've been talking about. So there's still a lot of baseball to be played, and to be whatever 3.5 back, whatever will be at the end of the night when we all wake up tomorrow. You know, it's not like they're 7 games back. You are afforded a loss tonight.
Hey, guys, make sure you subscribe to the CHGO Sports YouTube page and like it while you're there. Best way to enjoy the experience is to, watch the games and then hang out with us on the YouTube page like a lot of people are tonight. We appreciate everybody that's out there. I will say this. The godfather of our podcast, Michael Collada, has beaten us over the head with the got to have a closer. I will say that while I'm not blaming Merriweather for the loss, because I think I probably would have left him in there too. In fact, I'd like to see him be the closer the rest of the way this season. You watch Clase pitch in that 9th inning, and you see the hopeless look on our eyes as the lineup, as Dansby's trying to flail away at 99, 100. This is his 3rd straight day on the mound, and he's throwing 101. That's what a real closer looks like.
Yeah.
And that's a big difference in games like this.
Yeah. Sure. Listen, like, Clase has been one of the best closers in baseball this year. And, I know he was a big talking point that we thought about maybe the Cubs and the Guardians might link up on a trade last offseason. And I think the Guardians wanted Cade Horton and the Cubs didn't want to do that. And I agree that I feel like that's the right move. I wouldn't have given up Cade Horton for a closer personally. But yeah, this is what I always say though, when we talk about the bullpen, they developed Emmanuel Clase. Right. They developed. It's not like they went out and paid him. He came up through the system and they developed him. I still think the best case scenario for the Cubs when it comes to the closer role is developing someone there. And in the present, that's not going to happen right now. Like, if we're talking about development and a guy in the closer role, maybe Porter Hodge one day. But to me right now, I disagree with you on Merriweather. I think Jorge Lopez has pitched well enough to earn a chance to close some games over Neris. Now, when it comes to Merriweather in that 8th inning, it was the first time he pitched, at least completed or tried. I don't believe he pitched more than an inning in any of his appearances since returning from the injured list. I could be wrong on that, but just basically.
So you would have gone 1 and out. 1 inning and out.
Basically, yeah. And that's only just
that's
only just because it's not like he's been pitching all season for you. You know what I mean? Like he's just got back. You know what I mean? And you're coming off an off day, so your entire bullpen's fresh, and you have an off day on Thursday. So I don't necessarily understand that. In hindsight, of course, it looks like you shouldn't have left Merriweather out there. I'm a believer in Merriweather. He's been good for you whenever you've had him. And you basically picked him up off the street last year, and you turned him into a high leverage reliever. I think he's earned that opportunity to go out there and pitch that 8th inning, no doubt. However, considering he's still coming back, he's only had a handful of appearances since coming back off the injured list. I personally would have gone with, to me, it probably would have been Jorge Lopez. Again, I think that he has earned an opportunity to be the closer for this team because Neris continues to give us heart attacks. But based off what we know and how Counsell is working with things, I feel like he should have gone with Lopez for that 8th inning and then, go from there. But, I also don't hate the idea that he brought Merriweather back out there just because at the same time, while I'm saying that it's only been a handful of appearances, you also want to see if he can go out there and do that. And I know there's a line that you have to try to balance on that, but they're going to need a guy like Merriweather to be able to go out there and pitch high leverage innings this last month and a half.
That's sort of where I'm leaning, and I can at least, if I wanted to defend Counsell's decision, that's probably part of it, I would think. And I'm okay with, like you say, Lopez getting an opportunity to closer too. I just am kind of done with Neris being the closer.
I think we all are.
Right? So
we all are.
And I know a lot of things have led to that he isn't ideally your closer going into the season, but okay, here we are. So let's make the adjustments if you're going to somehow make this interesting down the stretch. Listen, it was a fun baseball game to watch. Yeah. I'll give it that. What was their record? They said 25-6 when they hit 2 home runs. You know how I love to say home runs are the difference in almost every game they play. Yeah, it was until the other team hit 3.
Yeah.
Well, but I mean, if they could have got that 3rd home run, what a difference it would, in just one of those situations, what a difference it would have made. And once again, Shota, while he's had a terrific season, the one thing that always, when he does get nicked,
it's the long ball.
It's the long ball.
Yeah.
And that's just who he is.
Yeah.
But we were sitting there watching him like, just don't give up a long ball to Naylor here. And then one batter later, he gives it up, and it's even worse. Yeah,
I think the Guardians also just match up well against Shota. They've hit well against left-handed pitching all season, I believe. So I felt good about Shota going tonight since he was coming off a really good start against the Twins where he had 10 strikeouts last week. He's been so good all season. I'm not worried about him. I expect him to bounce back in his next start. Again, the first homer that Noel hit, that ball was nowhere near the strike zone.
It was like he was at Topgolf.
Yeah. It was like I was out there when I was at Wrigley, and we had that video that everyone makes fun of me for, and I'm swinging at just like balls bounced in the Except this guy just went out there and just clubbed it out. I was really impressed. I think that's one of those where you just kind of tip the cap. And in general, and this is why I kind of feel the way I do, is like it's not like you just lost to, sorry, Sox guys, but the White Sox or just a bad. You lost to a team that is really, really good. You had chances to win this game, and I feel like you have shown that you can play with this team tonight. So come back tomorrow. I'm a little nervous about Assad because he's been shaky, but hopefully he comes out and delivers a decent outing, and the Cubs can score some runs for him. So
we will talk more about that in a second, but first we want to tell you about some of our partners, including our friends at BetterHelp, Cody.
Yeah, this show is sponsored by BetterHelp, Luke. When your schedule is packed with kids' activities, big big work projects and more, it's easy to let your priorities slip. Even when we know what makes us happy, it's hard to make time for it. But when you feel like you have no time for yourself, non-negotiables like therapy are more important than ever. If you've benefited from therapy, like me, you probably have found a way to get through the Cubs season, for example. All right.
Some would say we're therapy in some ways.
Yeah, some might say that we are therapy for them, because I could totally understand if you completely disagree with what I've said about the Cubs tonight and are very angry because the Cubs have put themselves in this position, and it basically feels like every loss is the season is over and every win feels like they're back. You know what I mean? But therapy helps you get through these types of things, whether it's what I'm talking about or if you're going through a lot of issues in your life. I've personally used therapy for a lot of things in my personal life, and it's made me happier, and I have, gotten through a lot of tough situations. Stronger. Yeah. That's a great word, right? If you think about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited for your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/CHGO today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/CHGO.
Cody, some beers can say they're brewed for baseball, but only Blue Moon is brewed by baseball. Beer and baseball just go together, and no beer goes better than the one that was literally born in a ballpark. Blue Moon was created at Coors Field in Denver, Colorado. It's the natural choice all season long. Hey, we are right in the thick of summertime shy. Aaron Watershow screams, hand me a Blue Moon and a slice of orange and watch jet fuel splash down on your face as you're floating in a boat somewhere in Lake Michigan, doesn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
Nothing beats watching baseball or lounging by the pool or just going out for a round of golf with your buddies like a good ice-cold Blue Moon. Blue Moon was brewed by baseball to give you a dose of nostalgia and get you excited for the season. A beer this good only comes around once in a Blue Moon, but you can enjoy it all summer long. Bring the ballpark to you with Blue Moon, Belgian-style wheat ale. It's one of a kind every time. Get Blue Moon delivered by visiting get.bluemoonbeer.com/CHGO to see your delivery options. That's get.bluemoonbeer.com/CHGO. Blue Moon, made brighter, celebrate responsibly. Blue Moon Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. Godfather of CHGO pointing out 21 blown saves for the Cubs. We know, there's no question that not only has closer been a problem, but the bullpen has been a problem off and on throughout the season. And obviously injuries have also been at least a part of that equation.
Yeah. The bullpen would be even, but let's just acknowledge the fact that the bullpen has been better over the last month and a half, at least since June. All right. Yeah, I would say since June. That said, because of some of your injuries, like imagine if you had Ben Brown, maybe he's getting some closing opportunities at this point.
Yeah, we'll talk about him in a little bit. That's not good.
Him, Merriweather missed time at the beginning of the year.
Lots of guys. Killian was bad. If you have more guys in the rotation, maybe Assad's a part of that bullpen at some
Jordan
point.
Wicks, he's been out. He's filing a rehab stint. Killian's actually in Iowa right now. Like he's off the injured list and he's in Iowa. I know he's on the 40-man, so they could easily call him up in September if they wanted to. I don't know if they will, but Jack Neely, the guy who came over in the lighter trade, I'm intrigued to see if they'll call him up. But the point that I'm getting at here is that, and I've said this plenty of times, is ALLCITY not giving the Cubs literally anything this year. No one expected that. And we kind of talked about it a little bit last week because it was announced that he's having Tommy John. He's going to miss the rest of the season. He's probably not going to pitch at all next year. And it kind of goes back to how the Cubs handled him in terms of, he got hurt at the beginning of September last year. You get to the end of the year, or the last couple of weeks, and he came back and pitched, and honestly, it wasn't good. And then you go into the offseason, we're all told by the Cubs that, he's going to be ready for next season.
Right.
And then we got what we got. And, Godfather, like to your, I agree with your point. Like, yeah, 21 blown saves, you need a closer. But from what I was told, like Alzolay was healthy, so I didn't hate that they went with Alzolay. That doesn't mean that I thought that Alzolay was going to be anything like Emmanuel Clase, but I felt like if the Cubs were
in it, they'd add when they needed to.
If they were in it and they, were at the top of the division, something like that, and you felt like they were just missing like that lockdown guy, maybe, just maybe, they go trade some of the farm to get a guy, Obviously, that didn't pan out the way we wanted, and it also didn't help that Alzolay just not only was he not healthy, but he wasn't good before they decided he wasn't healthy. I think the whole thing, when it comes to this bullpen and the blown saves, it just points directly back to how the Cubs mismanaged Adbert Alzolay's injury. And I can blame the Cubs for that. I can blame Adbert Alzolay a little bit for that too, because of whatever the hell he's telling them at the same time. I think there's a lot of blame that goes around for a lot of people in the organization for that. I blame mainly the medical staff more than I do Jed, because the medical staff is telling Jed that this guy is okay. But at the same time, sure, Jed probably should have got more than Hector Neris in the offseason as well to go into the bullpen. That all said, he did somewhat fix it because the bullpen has been better in the middle of the season. But again, they really don't have that closer. And again, it doesn't really affect tonight's game. I'm just explaining my 2 cents on the bullpen now and going into the offseason, because in the big picture scheme, like, you look at this team, and it's like, this team needs a guy. They need a guy that you feel very confident going out there with. And I still think their best case scenario is developing a guy, but if you want to go out there and trade for a guy, then you got to be willing to give up the prospects.
It wasn't the reason they lost this game. I guess technically you could say yes, well, the bullpen gave up the winning run. Mm-hmm. The reason we're talking about it is it was staring you in the face when the other team marched out a guy and you were like, this is over. After you saw him throw 99 and 101 after he'd pitched the last 2 days, you were like, yeah, he's not going to have a down night. And he just mowed right through him. So that's kind of why we're talking about it.
I don't disagree with anyone who is still upset about how the bullpen and everything. Like, I in general am pretty upset about it. I'm just explaining the thought process going into the season from me into where we are now and how we're going into the offseason. Because this offseason, like, whether they make the playoffs or not, of course, like, the delusional brain inside of me, 9.7%, yes, there's still hope. There's still a chance, right? But most of me is still sitting here, until we get to 500 or maybe more, most of me is still sitting here thinking about what's going on in the offseason, all right? And, yeah, that's a big thing that they need to get figured out, because, as a lot of people in the chat like to point out, if this team had, didn't blow 21 blown saves, if they don't blow half of that, they're probably safely in a wild card spot right now. They're probably in the not 9 games back in the division.
Or if they blow a quarter of those and the offense doesn't fall apart.
Sure.
For a portion of the season. There's a mixture of a lot of things
that
could have changed the way this cake is being baked.
If you had a lockdown guy like Class A, you probably win a few more of those 1-run games.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
You know why? Another reason why we're sitting here talking about the bullpen is because it was a 1-run game.
Yeah.
And lately, they haven't been playing a lot of 1-run games. They've been scoring runs. They've been able to put themselves in position to where they're allowed to give up a run or two in the 9th inning. I know they had a 1-run game on Friday, but somehow, some way, Neris got out of that. I don't know how. I'm so glad that I did not witness the Cubs blowing that game to the White Sox, but like it's all been about what I've said all season. Like, this team's got to score runs, and that's why they've been winning games lately, is because they've been scoring runs, and that's another reason why I feel fairly fine going into tomorrow, because they did score runs tonight. The offense was awesome.
I think it's Mike Venable in the live YouTube chat with a great comment. Poop. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I believe we also have a super chat from Joe DiGiacomo, $4.99. Thanks, Joe. Bullpen mismanagement by Craig Counsell strikes again. Immediately pulled the rug out from under his team. Lopez is their best pen arm. Shaking my head. We talked about it a little bit. Like, you don't disagree? I don't know that I disagree. I just To me, they lost this. They lost this game earlier when they made an error and they had a walk, and then they didn't take advantage. They gave up some home runs, but they came back and tied it after that. I get it.
The only thing I disagree with this super chat is like Craig Counsell bullpen mismanagement strikes again. Like, when was the last time it struck and like hurt this team? Like, I completely disagree with that. I think his bullpen management has been fine this year for what he has, considering all the injuries that they've had in the bullpen. To be able to piece it together the kind of way they have, I don't know. Like, again, tonight, sure, they lost a 1-run game and Julian Merriweather gave away the run. If you want to blame Craig Counsell for that because of hindsight, fine. Fine. And again, I do feel like,
and I bet there's probably half the fans that agree with Joe for sure.
Sure. And like I said, I personally would have brought Jorge Lopez in, but it's not like Julian Merriweather is bad either. So that's my point. So I don't know, man. I
still don't know who Joan Kenzie Noel is. He's 23, but his 2 home runs made a pretty big difference in this game too. Yeah. And I don't know when Stephen Kwan started hitting home runs.
Dude, he's one of the biggest. Like, how? Like, are they injecting steroids into Stephen Kwan in Cleveland? If so, like, can we get some? We'll inject him into Nico Horner.
You've always been pro steroids, no question about it.
Like, you look at Stephen Kwan and you're like, how is this guy hitting the ball over the fence?
I got to tell you right now, if somebody offered me steroids to get rid of these 2 mosquito bites that are itching on my leg, I would directly inject them into the mosquito bites. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, so yes, the bullpen was a problem. Home runs were a problem in this game. Things that were positive, PCA continues to look better at the plate. Now, I know in the last out of the game, you're going to say, well, he did. Yeah, he was a guy was throwing 101 and is one of the best closers in the game. This is a work in progress. But what I've seen over the last
August.
Yeah, the last month, the last 2-3 weeks, maybe even at the most, 2 weeks, it looks different. It looks different at the plate. It seems like he's hitting the ball harder.
Yeah, I mean, his first at bat even, he hit a line drive out to center. Unfortunately, right to the center fielder, and then second at bat, that's when he clubbed the one out of the park.
Yeah.
And so we've talked about, we probably spent a lot of, I would say 35% of every podcast last week talking about PCA.
PCA, of
because
course.
It's been a massive development. And,
again, that's a huge development for this franchise. And it's a small sample size, but you have to remember that's the way players are progressing now. They're not getting all the at-bats they should be getting in the minor leagues. And so he's got to see pitching at a high level. He's seen it at the major league level. So this is what you get.
Yes, I think the fact that he's hitting the ball hard and giving you quality at bats, he's had some at bats too where he's not swinging at pitches outside the zone very often. He looked really good tonight again with the homer. He looked really good on Friday. I think he went 3 for 4 in that game. A couple stolen bases. Like he's showing how much of a real asset he can be for this Cubs team in the future, now and the future. I mean, this guy, the moment he gets on base, if it's a single, he's on third base in a matter of minutes, considering how fast he is. I think 23 for 23 on stolen base attempts. And he's showing the ability to hit to all fields, and he's showing the ability to slug a little bit. I don't know what his peak home run total will be, but he's showing that he can hit it out of the park too. And if he can be a 15 to 20 home run guy on top of that speed and that defense in center field, that's a really good player. Now, can he be a league average hitter or can he be an above league average hitter? If he's an above league average hitter, we're talking about an all-star. We're talking about, how we talk about how this team doesn't have stars, Luke. If this guy is an above league average hitter, just like say 270.
Yeah.
Say if he hits 270 or better with that speed and the slug that we've kind of seen little glimpses of, if he's a 15 to 20 home run hitter, hits 270 or better, and has that speed and that defense and the ability to steal, 40 plus bases every year, we're talking about a 6 or 7 WAR player, in my opinion.
And then add Juan Soto as a DH, and you got yourself.
Don't let me dream about it.
Let me tell you what you're
I'm already dreaming about this team.
We'll talk more about the birthday boy, by the way, Ian Happ, who had a big game in just a few minutes. But first, here's how I'd celebrate my birthday. It's grilling season, baby. Get your pork. Get your pork on. People who are active need more protein than the average American. In fact, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics and dietitians of Canada and the American College of Sports Medicine recommend 1.2 to 2.0 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day for athletes, depending on their training. For a 150-pound person, that's 81 to 136 grams of protein per day. A 3-ounce serving of pork gives you 23 grams of high-quality protein. The International Society of Sports Nutrition recommends that people who are involved in a general fitness program, like us, or, those just interested in optimizing their health, like us, eat low-fat, high-quality sources of protein, including lean cuts of pork. So elevate your protein game with lean pork, a powerhouse of natural goodness. Savor the flavor, savor the gains, and celebrate any occasion by enjoying the best pork produced by Illinois pig farmers. From your sausage and bacon for breakfast to pulled pork and juicy chops hot off the grill, it's an entire season dedicated to pork and the people behind the product. Paid for by the Illinois pork producers. Generations of commitment.
We're going to talk about Ian Happ. Who had Ian Happ to hit a homer tonight on his birthday?
That guy.
This guy did. All right. I also had no run first inning, which was an absolute lock, which is crazy when you look at the score at the end of the game. But there were a few innings where neither team scored. Thankfully, the first inning did not. That worked out for me, right? Did it all on Circa Sportsbook. Games strive to be a -110 split on the Circa Sports menu, unlike other sportsbooks, which may use a -115 or -120 splits. Circa Sports keeps as little money as possible on large market bets, especially compared to other books. They don't limit players based on their winnings either. Every player has the same limits, unlike other books who do limit winning players. They encourage bettors to download and explore all sports betting apps available to compare the lines from each sportsbook. There are real people behind the Circa Sports brand who resolve issues in a timely fashion, unlike other books who use chatbots. All aspects of the app are being run by the same team that runs the main Circa Sportsbook at Circa Resort and Casino in Las Vegas. So download the Circa Sports Illinois app at circasports.com/Illinois-app to sign up today. Also, be on the lookout for Circa events, watch parties, and tailgates. They're with us for every Cubs Friday 120 Club. Got one this Friday against the Blue Jays.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? Maybe they win the next two. And
reel you back in.
And we're going into a Friday on a win streak.
Like a bass bouncing on the pier.
I mean, just let a guy dream.
I'll let you.
Let a guy dream.
I'll let you.
Right? They let me dream, all right?
I would just say, if you see a worm on a hook, stay away from it.
If you or someone you may know may have a problem with gambling, call 1-800-GAMBLER, text GAMB to 833-234, or visit areyourreallywinning.com.
Very nice. Love our friends at Circa. They always support us. They really do.
They do.
And you know what I say? Nothing beats tight money line splits.
I mean, yeah.
Well, maybe a sweet pool in Vegas also, but
they have the best odds.
They got that too.
They got the best odds.
Well, some bad news on the injury front. We're going to talk about Ian Happ in a second, but the news today before the game from Craig Counsell was that Ben Brown has been shut down, at least for now, from all baseball activity until they can get his neck symptom-free.
Yeah.
And I will say that a neck it's
a weird injury.
It's an odd baseball injury, but anybody that's ever woken up with like a stiff neck or something, it changes. For an athlete, it'd be terrible, but if you have a really bad stiff neck or neck pain, it impacts everything. Sometimes you can't even do anything, right? So I'm getting concerned about this.
Yeah.
Like I already was. Now wouldn't you consider Horton and Ben Brown two of your, if not your top pitching prospects?
I mean, ones that we're going to see soon, yes.
Right, like the guys that are closest to, like they.
Yeah. I would say Jackson Wiggins is right behind Cade Horton in terms of actual prospects.
But right now, they're 1A and 1B.
Yeah,
they're the future of pitching on this team, and
yeah,
I don't like what I hear about either one of those. I'm not a doctor. I don't have the medical reports in front of me. I just don't like how long they've been out and how long we really haven't had an answer to either guy.
Yeah.
And disappointing that the development of both
has been slowed
to completely stopped.
Yeah.
Right? Because the hope was going into this season that they would both be forces in the second half of the season. We've been talking about the bullpen all game. And again, it's not all bullpen or bullpen choices for this game because it was 9-8, but yes, when you can have guys like that start to move in and you can find your own class A. Maybe he is Ben Brown in a bullpen role. Maybe Horton comes into the rotation, they find somebody else, and they move other guys around. I want to see those young players contribute. I want to see them go through the bumps and bruises just like I want to see PCA go through it. But Ben Brown, they're saying shutting down. He's not playing this season. Why wouldn't they? Why not just come out and tell us he's not pitching this season? If you're shutting him down and he's not even doing tossing of the baseball, what is he magically going to heal tomorrow? And then you're going to get him back on a throwing program and he's going to help.
Yeah.
Guys, let's be realistic.
Yeah.
Even if it takes the shortest amount of time possible, if they shut him down and it takes a week, then to ramp him back up, it's still just not that likely. They're both done for the season.
Yeah, I lean to agree with you on Ben Brown, which is really unfortunate because he was a massive development. I mean, I still think about that game where he had 7 no-hit innings against Milwaukee. I think that was that watch party. I think Shota pitched, but maybe it was that same series where he had that great outing against the Brewers, and he had other great outings. I mean, if you have forgot, he was called up the very first day of the year after Steele got hurt, and came up and was an immediate spark, and then just the only good news I can take from it in terms of the injury is thank God it's not a shoulder or anything to do with his arm. It's just it's his neck, and I don't know what to take from that other than the fact that at least it's not his arm. And those, if it's an arm injury, it can lead to more arm injuries down the line. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's tough.
There have been 3. I won't say they're all prospects, but you've had 3 young players in the farm system when you added Brendan Davis, who got off, hit that stretch where he was hitting home run after home run, where you're like, man, I'd like to see these 3 guys at some point this season having active roles or at least get a shot. It's been a tough year for that.
Yeah.
I know they've had guys called up and do a nice job, but Porter Hodges won.
Michael Bush,
obviously PCA, but I would like to have seen even more of that youth injected into this team.
Well, Luke Little was another one too. He had emerged, but then he got hurt.
It's another one, yeah.
Yeah, they've just had a lot of injuries to a lot of young guys, and I think that's I'm not sitting here blaming injuries to why they've lost or why they're in this position. I feel like I could use that excuse early in the season, but as they got healthier, especially on offense as the season went on, they still weren't winning games. So it comes to the fact that maybe this team just isn't as good as we expected. But as far as the pitching, to me, it's even more of a testament to Tommy Hotovy and some of the other guys that they have, because all these injuries that we're talking about, and they've still managed to have one of the better rotations in the National League. They pieced out the bullpen and have gotten solid production out of a lot of it to keep them afloat and somehow in this race. So yeah, I don't know, man. It sucks about Brown and Horton though.
Jake Hazen 20 says, I hope to find someone that loves me the way Cody loves Little.
I do love Little, and it's not just because I met his dad at spring training. You cannot sit here and tell me that guy wasn't starting to emerge as a legitimate weapon in the bullpen before he got hurt. You can go watch his last 5 to 10 outings before he got hurt and tell me that guy wasn't starting to emerge. And if you do that, then I'm just going to look at you and not understand what you're watching. But
Cody loves Little. Corey loves Bush. That's 2 things we've learned.
Well, he's a left-handed power relief pitcher. When was the last time the Cubs had a guy like that? Oh, Aroldis Chapman, who was the closer in 2016. Thank you. Okay.
What happened in 2016?
Cubs won the World Series.
We got another super chat. This one's from Matt McIntyre. Same subject. Whether or not Merriweather should have been in there. Merriweather has to get back to form. Not going to happen on the bench. The winning run scored on weak contact garbage. Nothing wrong with leaving him in. $9.99 from Matt McIntyre.
That's fair.
Thanks for your time. I'm somewhere in between Joe DiGiacomo and Matt McIntyre. Thanks for both super chats. I don't swing as heavy either direction on that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm totally against him being in there like Joe was, and I don't know if I totally defend it like Matt. I'm more on, I don't know if that's really where the game was won or lost. That's how I feel.
I think the game, I know they made the comeback.
Technically, that's where the game was lost.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like that's where the game was lost.
I think the game was lost whenever they blew the 3-0 lead. And even though they made the comeback, they never got the lead back. You know, like when you're on the road and you have a 3-0 lead against a really good team like that, you just can't give it back. And I think some blame goes to Shota on that. If you want to criticize Counsell for leaving Shota in for too long, that's fair, I think. I think Counsell was trying to get some length out of him just because he has been so good this year. So he had some trust there. So, but that obviously didn't work. And, you know, maybe if he removes him earlier, maybe it's not 8-3. Maybe it's, you know, 7-3 or 7-3 or 6-3. You know, it was 6-3 at one point, and then more runs were tacked on with Shota out there, I believe. So I might have to go back and look at how some of those innings went, but I'm pretty sure that's how it worked out. But I think if there's any criticism for Counsell, for sure, it's maybe more so like that. To me, like the leaving Merriweather in or going to Lopez or someone else, I just think that's something that's easy to look at in hindsight. But
John Bone says he hates the move because they lost.
What?
Well, that's
that's
understandable.
To just openly admit.
He said I'm against the move, but only because we lost.
Yeah, to just openly admit that you're looking at it in hindsight, like
that's
big of you to just admit that. Like that's fine. Like listen, a lot of fans do that, man. Like I'm not gonna tell you how to fan. So,
you know what today is? Sarah, do you know what today is?
No.
Sarah's running the 1s and 2s tonight for all those who are wondering. Today's the anniversary of the David Bodie game.
Oh, man.
You want to go down that?
No, not really, but...
David Bodie walk-off? I thought you'd come in here with a David Bodie jersey on or something today.
Why would... Okay.
Maybe you get obvious shirts to make one of those custom shirts. Happy David Bodie anniversary game.
He did release some shirt related to that.
Did he really?
Today. Yeah.
That's funny.
I'll just say
Joe
this.
does a great job.
At the time when David Bodie hit that homer, I was living in an apartment by myself, and I was just watching a game, and it was like, if you go back to that game was so boring. It was like a pitcher's duel, though. It was like Cole Hamels versus Max Scherzer, I believe.
Cole Hamels.
And Cole Hamels was going neck and neck with Scherzer. He gives I don't know if it was him or if it was the Cubs bullpen in that 8th inning. Maybe it was the 7th inning. I don't know. It might have been the 7th inning. They get those 3 runs, and then, you know, just as we know, the magic that happened that 9th inning. It was one of the funnest endings, one of the craziest and funnest innings of any Cubs regular season game that we'll ever see. Like, I'm sure David Bodie is tired of having to talk about that game to people, but like legitimately, that's he's always going to be remembered for.
Sure.
Unless he has some big moment for the Cubs in the postseason or something like that. But I mean, like it was to me, if you're an athlete or if you're a baseball player, that's the kind of moment that you dream about when you're in the backyard or if you're at the field, the park or whatever, and you're like, you know, bases loaded, 2 outs, you know, down 3-0, like walk off grand slam, like, you know, like that's why that moment was so fun. Not just like the actual like watching him running the bases and all of that, but like,
and it was a long shot player getting his chance and having a big moment. Right?
Yeah, like, it was a fun moment. Yeah.
It reminds me of the Esteban Quiros game, but I believe that was on the road, so slightly less exciting.
The Esteban Quiros game. Only the OGs of this podcast know who Esteban Quiros is. If you've only been listening to this podcast for a year, you don't know who Esteban Quiros is.
Hey, if you're hanging out with us in the therapy session tonight, and if you dislike Jed Hoyer or you dislike Craig Counsell's bullpen choices, or if you dislike anybody that's been a potential closer for the Cubs, which is pretty much all of you in the chat tonight, or if you think Morel is better than Juan Soto, Barb, come on out and hang out with us on Wednesday. We got a watch party coming up, Primetime Bar and Grill in Hickory Hills. And I believe that is southwest side, down by like Cicero. Is that right, Hickory Hills?
I have no idea where it is.
I believe Hickory Hills by Cicero? Yeah. Sox guys say yeah.
All right.
So anyways, we're going to hang out there, Primetime Bar and Grill, Wednesday, and we're just going to come watch the game. Just tell us you're going to be there. We'll have some swag giveaways.
I'm a little nervous because we're going to the South Side, and like the White Sox exist in the city. You know?
I think we'll be all right. We'll be all right. They're very nice people there in Hickory Hills, from what I understand.
From what you understand?
Yes, I don't think we.
Well, no, I
know we don't have Ryan, our protector, with us, but I think we'll, he's the muscle of the operation.
Are they like the random Cubs bar on the south side of town?
It might not even be a Cubs bar. It's just a hangout,
Just a regular bar. Okay.
It's a bar that serves good ice cold Blue Moon.
Yeah, that's true.
Heard the food's good. So we're going to find out. I don't know a whole lot about the place. Should be good.
Well, hopefully, last week I talked about when we were promoting this last week.
95th and Roberts Road.
Okay.
According to Godfather.
When we were promoting this last week, I kept saying, the Cubs are going to be winners of 6 straight when we go to the watch party. This time we're going to be winners of 5 of our last 6 games going into this watch party because we're going to win tomorrow and then hopefully win on Wednesday to win the series and take great vibes into the Blue Jays series.
James Colstock says the 3 C's, write them down: catcher, closer, and cleanup hitter. Would you agree with that? Those are the 3 biggest needs of this franchise right now.
I think they've gotten
catcher and closer are definitely high on that list.
I think they've gotten better catcher play, but it's not like they have anyone that's like going to be here long term. Like I think I still believe in Amaya a little bit, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm in on him being like an everyday guy. Maybe he's just more of a backup. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, we've talked a ton about Vladimir Guerrero Jr. as a dating all the way back to October of last year when we manifested the conversation.
We manifested it because we said Magic Wand Monday, let's make some, or was it Wild Thought Wednesday? I don't remember which one it was. But we just went through it, and I said, what teams really need to make a shake-up move? And we said, okay, well, there's a guy that could, somebody on the Jays, that team eventually is headed for a shake-up move. Now, maybe it's this offseason that happens.
Sure, yeah.
Maybe it's somebody else, but sooner or later, that team's going to have to shake up what they have going on.
In general, yeah, I would agree that they still need a big power bat. That said, recently they've been hitting the home run a lot more, and I still think Michael Busch has more home run power in him. Maybe he's that guy down the road. I don't know, but like that's still. But the point, I wouldn't say cleanup hitter is the need. What they need is
Juan Soto.
They need a superstar player.
Of course they do.
They need a star. They need a superstar. They need a Chris Bryant. They need, someone like that to go together with a lot of these really good complementary players. I said earlier, if PCA is a above league average hitter, he could develop into a star, but like that does you're still not getting the home run power. I think from he's never going to be a 30 to 40 home run guy. You still need that, and so I don't disagree with James there for the most part.
Flex Diggs says Jed coming into the season with Amaya and Yan as the catchers. Good job, Jed. I'd call you a bozo, but he was actually likable. That's an old WGN joke.
Well, Flex Diggs, I got a question for you. Did you not like the idea of coming into the season with Amaya and Yan? Because I know we here didn't really think too much of it.
But not credit to us. We should have at least thought that, hey, at some point, I'm with you. Okay. It didn't cross my mind that this is a bad idea.
I don't think,
but it should have crossed my mind that Yan Gomes would have a better than 50% chance of having a horrible season based on his age and just the likelihood of the way baseball goes. Now, I didn't expect Amaya to kind of take a step back too.
Yeah, no, the
hope was it was going to be Amaya and a little bit of Gomes.
The thing that's hurt the most with catcher to me has just been Amaya, but also just in general, if you just go over the entire season, like the defense for both of them hasn't been very good in terms of throwing runners out. We've had games where they've lost because passed balls, wild pitches, whatever you want to call them. I think they deserve some credit for helping the pitching staff. Pitching staff has been great, but as far as holding runners, stuff like that we've seen that be a struggle. And, the offense just hasn't really been there. I'm not even asking for them to be great hitters. I'm asking for them to just be competent. Like Amaya's been a lot better offensively since I would say, the beginning of July. But, for those 2.5 months before that, 3 months, whatever, like it was so bad to where you felt like you were getting nothing from him, right? But he has been better offensively, at least, so he is giving you something, and that's led to why this team is, at least right here in the race right now. Like the reason the Cubs are here, 2 games under 500, and still somehow in the NL wildcard race is because Swanson and Amaya have played better. On top of the fact that the rest of the guys have continued to hit, and your starting rotation's been good, and the bullpen is stabilized. More so than just stabilized, but like actually been one of the best bullpens in baseball over a span of a month and a half. So I'm still a believer in Amaya for at least to be your backup, but we know Christian Bethancourt ain't going to be here next year. So
he's not.
I don't think so.
No, I don't either.
So yeah, that's something they definitely got to address. There was credit to Gary Ross. He was the first one who brought it up to us in the chat and in the CHGO Cubs Discord at the trade deadline. But MLB Trade Rumors put out that article over the weekend. I think it was either today or last night, but about Logan O'Hoppe. The Cubs tried to go after him. I think that's where I saw it. I think Sahadev Sharma actually wrote about it more in depth from it at the Athletic, and talked about how the Cubs were really trying to get him. I guess the Angels they didn't want to move him. And so I'm intrigued about that potential in the offseason. I would love for the Cubs and the Angels to gather again to potentially talk about a guy like that because he's young. He's got a lot of potential. He's grown from year 1 to year 2, at not only at the position defensively, but also offensively. I think there's a lot to like there with him. So, but you're going to have to give up something for him because he has a lot of years of control and he's 24.
That's right. Eventually, you're going to have to part with some prospects if you're going to make a trade for an impact player.
Yeah.
It's just not likely. It's just not very likely that you give up prospects that you don't want or don't think will make it, and you get back an impact player.
Mm-hmm.
Those are very rare trades in baseball history. Sure, you can luck into them every once in a while, but if that's what you're counting on for your future, I would say mostly good luck to you. Yeah, the White Sox are beating the Yankees. That game is not over yet. Speaking of the Yankees, we have a Cubs-Yankees takeover coming September 6th. And I was just talking about Juan Soto a couple times, just throwing in his name to drive people crazy.
You do that on purpose. You're now doing it. It went from Aaron Judge to Shohei Ohtani to now Juan Soto.
I'm a big believer. All those guys would have looked great in a Cubs uniform. Judge would have been awesome.
Well, yeah, you look at him now in hindsight, but
Judge would have been awesome, and obviously Ohtani would have been awesome. Whatever. To make the play, overspend. I want to know what your sign's going to be September 6th because every sign ought to be dedicated to convincing Juan Soto this is where he needs to sign.
You can't just say Anthony Rizzo forever.
Well, I can say that if you want, but that'll probably get on TV. But the Soto one, we'll get to the hearts of Cubs fans.
Me and Bragg should make 2. One that says,
Ricketts, pony up. We want Soto.
We want Soto and Anthony Rizzo forever. Those are the 2 signs.
Ricketts, don't be cheap. We want Soto.
Yeah,
that's probably a Bragg's one.
Right.
I bet Godfather'd come to the game and actually hold that sign
for Soto or for the Rizzo.
Ricketts, don't be cheap. We want Soto.
We want Soto.
I feel like that'd be an opportunity. So now potentially,
anyway, yeah,
it's Assad and Hendricks tomorrow, right?
Potentially, yeah, because they skipped him and that Taylor McGregor said that
available in the bullpen.
That he's available in the bullpen. I actually kind of like that because Assad has struggled to go deep into any start for the most part. I think he's maybe gone 6 innings. I think I can count how many times he's gone 6 innings this year on one hand, to be honest with you. I could be wrong on that, but no more than 5 times, I would say. But yeah, so we'll see. I hope Assad can give them I would love for Assad to find a way to be able to go 5. That way you don't have to use Hendricks. But, yeah, we'll see. It's just a situation that they're in right now. And with the off day on Thursday, it makes sense.
Right. I would agree with that. Listen, I've been saying all along, give me 4 innings of Kyle Hendricks this season. I said as an opener.
He was great in his last start.
One run in like 21 innings.
Were you complaining on last Monday?
I did tweet something, even though I was off and not in Mexico. It was suburban Illinois.
Even though
just on there said, how does he go to Mexico and come back pale as a ghost?
Even though Hendricks wasn't even the reason they lost that game.
No, he wasn't.
He was great in that start. 2 runs in 6 innings.
That's right.
That's solid.
But only one of them was after the 4th inning.
Yeah.
So if you just go 4th inning, 1 run in 21 innings.
You just want those numbers to look better for whenever
I want them to make them look good, yeah.
I think I have a little bit more belief than you, which is weird because you've stuck by Kyle Hendricks' side all season.
If I'm anything, I'm loyal.
Yeah, that's not true. But for Kyle Hendricks, you are.
I'm loyal to sweets like nobody else.
That's true. That's true.
I'm loyal to sweets, short games.
Short games, sweets, and
trips
and
not
donuts.
to Mexico.
And trips not to.
I did not go to Mexico. I don't believe Ryan is in Mexico. Ryan actually was off today playing softball, and they, from what I understand, the CHGO defending champion, CHGO softball team in the Media League, apparently they've clinched a playoff spot.
Yeah.
I don't know any more about it other than that.
Yeah.
Sure, Ryan, we'll hear all about it on the Twitter. I'm sorry, X.
Yeah. I only told the chat and everyone that you went to Mexico because that's what we've done.
I'm curious what percentage of people believe that.
I hope everyone.
I was in Mexico.
I really hope
anytime I'm
thought.
gone, Luke's in Mexico, and they're like, wow, he goes to Mexico a lot.
It's like I tweeted on Saturday after I did the last show of the week. I was like, just did the show by myself all week. Credit to me. Good thing I didn't go to Mexico with Luke and Ryan.
Something's happening to Sarah over there. The headphones are down.
You want to know what's happening? Is I looked over and it's 11-2 right now. Sox are winning, and so I literally was like, "What the hell is going on?"
Yeah,
I was shocked.
Well, there's been a lot. There's been a big solar storm. I don't know if you've seen the Aurora Borealis out there, but strange things are happening out there.
Dion, I don't know how to say the rest of your name, but Dion says his Hendricks back in 2025 will catch on the other. Will he catch on with another team if the Cubs don't re-up?
I don't think he'll pitch for another team, and I think if he's back in 2025 with the Cubs, it will be for a very small salary.
Yeah.
That's what I believe.
Yeah. I personally don't think he'll be back next year with all the pitching that they have. You know what? You've been pushing this whole Juan Soto thing.
Yeah.
In my TikTok lives, I've been pushing Corbin Burns. That's who
I'd be okay with that too. Boy, you want to have a pitching staff.
I think Corbin Burns is more realistic than I do.
Well, you don't even need
Soto.
to score runs practically. Burns, Steele, Shota.
I mean, you need to score runs, but I'm just saying, like,
Horton.
We're talking about this team right now, and like we're excited about a lot of the pitchers and all this, but you've also had a lot of injuries, and somehow, some way, you're still pieced together, and you're able to, to put together decent outings. I know Shota wasn't good today, but I don't think any of us expect him to be bad in his next start. But if you had a guy like Corbin Burns to go with Steele and Shota,
gonna be expensive.
Yeah, but
gonna
like
be risky.
I just think that one's more realistic than Juan Soto at least. But I think that rotation would be awesome. So
be fun to watch.
Obviously,
so
they would obviously
7 days a week.
They would also have to still continue to make the team better, but like. I think Corbin Burns would be a great addition to the team.
Sure, why not? Let's get Burns and Tanner Scott, too. Get them while we're at it. Take everybody. Anyways, Cubs lose 9-8. Bit of a heartbreaker. You lose a 3-0 lead with Shota on the mound. You come all the way back to tie it at 8, and then you lose 9-8 to the Guardians. Winning streak ends at 4 in a row. That was a chance to win 5 in a row for just the second time this season, right? That would have tied the longest winning streak of the season. Would have had them back to the 500 mark for the first time since early June, but instead, one step back. We'll see what happens tomorrow with Assad on the mound. You got one more thing you want to say?
Yeah, just a little score updates for anyone listening. Colorado is leading Arizona 3-1 in the fourth. Dodgers lead the Brewers 5-2 in the bottom of the ninth right now. So barring any kind of massive comeback by the Brewers, you at least, don't lose any ground in the division for any of us really delusional. And the Braves and Giants are tied 0-0 in the fourth. So as we sit here right now, I think it's better for the Cubs if the Giants win this game against the Braves. Obviously, I think we were going to root for the Rockies, who had a massive comeback against the Braves yesterday and won. So who knows? And Pittsburgh and San Diego 0-0 in the fourth as well. So yeah, I don't feel like the Cubs are going to be losing any massive ground tonight. Sunday was very, very good for them. They didn't play and they still gained a half game in the wild card because everyone lost. But
so you're saying there's a chance?
All I'm saying is that we're going to wake up tomorrow.
9% is 9%.
Yes. All I'm saying is we're going to wake up tomorrow and it's basically going to feel like it did when we woke up today in terms of there still being basically the same. It really helped that St. Louis lost too.
I got 9% on a math test once, but did I quit? Hell no. I kept marching on.
There's a lot of games left.
And we will tomorrow.
Games left. I'm already deep in. I'm not even like full on back in. I'm just saying that like I'm deep into a certain point to where at least I'm interested in seeing what's going to happen.
You're just mildly delusional, you're not deeply delusional.
Now, if they win these next two and then go win the series against the Blue Jays, then I'm going to find myself in deep delusion.
Yeah.
Because they'll be over 500 if that happens.
If they get over 500 this week, I'll probably have to buy a water bottle just to cool you off.
You look at the schedule in the rest of August and what's in September. If they get over 500 this week, I think there's reason for some sort of real delusional hope. But fan how you guys want to fan. I don't care. But don't tell me how to fan.
That's right.
That's the CHGO Cubs way.
Thanks for checking out the CHGO Cubs podcast. We're back tomorrow for a live hour after the game. Hope you'll join us then. Until then, make sure you subscribe to the CHGO Sports YouTube page, and we'll see you tomorrow. Fly the W.
We all silly like the mayor.